Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Andy, and today, once again, we're going to talk about books. This video is inspired by Ariel Bissett over at her channel, Ariel Bissett. She has made a couple of videos now called 7 Books I Want to Read That Nobody Cares About. Well, here is 5 books that I want to read that I don't think anybody cares about. These books are books that were completely out of my purview. You know, I didn't see them on Goodreads or social media. I came across them in random places. I got them through random means. We have evolved to this point where I have them, and I have never talked about them. Not because, well, I mean, I've also never talked about them because I don't post on a regular enough basis. But that is besides the point. The other part of this is that even if I were to have talked about things in the past, these books might have gotten overlooked because they're not the standard, popular, the new thing, the thing that everybody's excited about. They're a little obscure. They're a little older. They're not, you know, the new releases that gets everybody excited, or the new releases that gets everybody promotion deals or anything like that. They're obscure, out-of-the-way books that I found in various ways that I really want to read, and that I have not had a chance to get to yet. I think most of these have been on my shelves all of them have been on my shelves for more than 6 months. I've had all of these for more than 6 months, and some of them I've had for years upon years. Some of them are very strong candidates for, I should either read this or just get rid of it. So that's also an interesting facet of these books, I guess. The first book on the list that I have to talk about today is Volume 2 of the Magickers Chronicles. This is also covered in dust. That's how old this one is. I think this is the oldest one of the stack. This book I have had for a very long time, and the only reason I haven't read it is because it's Volume 2, and it's technically Book 3 and Book 4 in a bind-up. And I can't start in the middle. I feel like it would be wrong to start in the middle. And I have felt that way since I realized that this is actually Book 2 of something, and I have never found Book 1, and I've never sought out Book 1 specifically, or Volume 1 specifically, and so I have never, ever read it. And it's just, but I really want to. It looks very exciting. The front of it is this cute, fun magic stuff. You know, books and candles, and that looks like an astrolabe or a compass or something. I don't know, it's got the symbols of, the astrological symbols on it, and there's a compass in the middle. So yeah, it looks really fabulously fascinating. It says that it's, especially, like, for Harry Potter fans, it's fantasy, it's fun, whatever. I don't remember what the back says anymore. I don't remember what it's about, because I just know that it looks like the kind of thing I would be interested in, but I don't know. I don't know, because I can't read it because it's Volume 2. And so I haven't even read the back, just in case I accidentally spoil myself? I don't know. I must have read the back when I picked it up, but that was years ago. So I really want to read this. I really do, but it's just so... There are obstacles. There are obstacles that I need to overcome in order to read this. And at the moment, there are other books that have easier obstacles to overcome, and that's been the case for more than 4 years. The next book on my list is also very interesting to me. I don't know if I would necessarily call myself excited, per se. I think it's more intriguing to me than anything else. This is Dreaming Water by Gail Tsukiyama, and I actually read... Where is it? I have it back here. I actually had to read The Samurai's Garden by Gail Tsukiyama for 2 separate classes in my senior year of college last year. And when I was at Goodwill, very shortly after graduating, I think in June, June of 2017, I came across Dreaming Water by Gail Tsukiyama, and I recognized the author, and I thought, well, since I read the one for class, and I did enjoy this one, I should pick up I can pick up something else by her. It's $2, like, you know, it's not gonna break the bank to buy it. And so I did, and I got it, and I was intrigued because of author and because I wanted to read more of what she had written, because this was so good and so well done, and this book, and particularly my experiences of reading this book, has a lot of personal feelings for me, based upon the contexts in which I read it and talked about it and that kind of thing. And so I picked this up. I haven't had a chance to get to it yet, but I think it's going to be really interesting and really fun. The next book on my list is a nonfiction book. This is called Girl Sleuth, Nancy Drew and the Women Who Created Her. Nancy Drew is a huge part of my life and my growth as a person. It was a huge part of my childhood. It was a huge part of my, it was a huge part of the beginning of my relationships with some of my best friends, and it is incredibly important to me. I have a whole big stack of just Nancy Drew books. They're all yellow because I bought them all at the same time at Sam's Club. But I just have a huge stack of Nancy Drew books. I have read so many of them, and I loved reading them and finding them when I was younger. And then as I got older, I transitioned into, Nancy Drew was still a big part of my life, but it was less in the books, and it was more in the video games. There's a video game series by a company called Her Interactive that are all the Nancy Drew detective sleuth games, basically. There's like 30 of them. Anyway, I am completely obsessed with them. I love them. I love playing them. I love the story behind it. I enjoy all of the different kinds of puzzles that they come up with. The fact that it's not always the same puzzle over and over again, that it varies and it's different. I love it. I love those games. And so as a person who is super interested in Nancy Drew, I saw this at a used bookstore, and I realized that I have no idea the history behind Nancy Drew and the women who created her. I don't know who, because I know Carolyn Keene is a pseudonym. Carolyn Keene was not a real person and isn't a real person, but, you know, there has to be something behind that. There have been a number of ghostwriters over the years who write as Carolyn Keene and publish Nancy Drew books and Nancy Drew stories. I am not sure about Franklin W. Dixon. I don't know if Franklin W. Dixon, the guy who wrote the Hardy Boys books, is the same. I don't know if he's also a pseudonym, but there are like Nancy Drew Hardy Boys crossovers, and that's also really interesting. And so like there's so many different authors and so many different series and so many different kinds of stories come under the purview of Nancy Drew. They're all mysteries, and they're all fun, and they're all under the same pseudonym, Carolyn Keene. And so this is about the original women behind Carolyn Keene. And so it's so interesting to me. It's so fascinating. And because it's nonfiction, we do have, where did they go? We do have photos and an insert in the middle of you know, some of the book covers and some of the historical documents. Harriet Stratmeyer, one of the women behind Nancy Drew, and so this is just so interesting to me. Just so interesting. I cannot wait to get my hands in it. I read the first 20 pages, and then I put it down for one reason or another. I don't exactly remember why anymore, but I cannot wait. I want to know everything about Nancy Drew. It's one of my obsessions. It's one of my little obsessions. I have a couple of them, and Nancy Drew's up there on the list. The fourth book on the list is called All My Puny Sorrows by Miriam Toews. I think it's pronounced Toes, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I bought this book 2 years ago. I bought this book 2 years ago. I found it in the used section of a Barnes & Noble, and I bought it, well, it was in the used section improperly, and I shouldn't have, but I paid full price for it because it wasn't supposed to be in the used section. It was a full-price book, but somebody had left it in the wrong spot. And even though I probably shouldn't have, I paid full price for it because the cover is 100% absolutely gorgeous, and the description on the back sounds really intriguing. The story is about a woman named Elf, who is a world-renowned concert pianist, and her attempted suicide, and her family, and them trying to get through this. Basically, I think it's probably a discussion of mental illness and suicide and trying to keep your family together and, you know, work your way through those kinds of really hard, heavy topics. And with a cover like this and a description like that, I feel like this book is going to be hard-hitting and emotional, and I want the inside to be as beautiful as the outside, which is why I haven't read it yet, because I don't know if I would be able to handle it if the inside was not as beautiful as the outside, because I want it to be so good, and so I haven't been able to pick it up ever, because I can't. But I will. But I will someday. I will someday read this, because I want to know. Yeah, but it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. I could look at this forever. I could look at, and it's like got little people on it, and this beautiful color palette with the purple and the orange and the gold. I think it's gorgeous. And then the back has got the same kind of, you know, people and trees and a piano, and it's beautiful. And I really love it. And I've never heard anyone talk about it anywhere, so I don't even know, you know? So the last book on my list today is Time Bends: A Life by Arthur Miller. This is the autobiography of Arthur Miller, the playwright who wrote The Crucible and who wrote Death of a Salesman. He is an iconic playwright in American theater history, and I bought this big, intimidating biography of the man when I went to see a production of The Crucible at the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is a huge biography of Arthur Miller. I love his work, and I want to know more about him, but this is intimidating, which is why it's still on my TBR. It's huge. It's huge. And again, as with nonfiction books, it's got the inserts, the pictures, the photos, which is, oh, that's gorgeous. Anyway, it's just wonderful. But it's dense. It's dense, and it's a big, thick, you know, heft of a book. It's gonna take me some time. That one's gonna take some time and concerted effort to get through and to read. And I am, like, genuinely really interested in Arthur Miller and his life and his process and the way that he thinks about things. But at the same time, when there are easier things to read, I don't necessarily go for the big, thick nonfiction autobiography. When I have shelves full of YA novels and shelves full of literary fiction, shorter books and poetry, I don't go for the big, thick, dense history text. Because that's my list of preferences. But I do really want to read it. I think it's really cool because I think Arthur Miller is pretty cool. Or at least I hope he's really cool. I don't know much about him, honestly. Which is why I bought the biography, because I don't know much about him and I kind of want to. Because I do really like Death of a Salesman and I do really like The Crucible. And I think they're really interesting. So those are the 5 books that I want to read that I don't think anybody else cares about. But I care about them a lot. I think they're really interesting. Have a lovely week. I hope that good things fall upon your shoulders today. Mwah!